Welcome back folks, my name is LastKnownMeal and today we have a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 news to talk about. First thing we're going to cover are the Gamescom nominations, where Cyberpunk was nominated in 6 categories, and also through all the new info from the UK PlayStation magazine, so let's get into it. First thing I want to go through are the Gamescom Awards, which will be held on Thursday, August 27 from 8 PM EU time, so 11 AM PST and 1 PM EST time. The categories it got nominated with are Best Action Game, Best Microsoft Xbox Game, Best Sony PlayStation Game, Best PC Game, Best Role-Playing Game and Best Original Game. We shall see how the Cyberpunk does, but I'm certain it could win most of these categories. They might even show something new there, like a trailer, but no info on that so far, just pure speculation. Next up, we're going to talk about everything we had learned from the UK official PlayStation magazine. There are quite a bit of things here. If you can, I really do suggest you pick this up because it is amazing. They actually had an exclusive interview with concept art coordinator Ben Andrews, Marta Jakowiak, the concept artist and fashion specialist, and Paweł Mielniczuk, the art director and designer for characters in the game. The first thing I want to cover is the inspiration behind the overall style of the game, since they were asked about the inspirations they took from the 80s and the 90s, spinning them into something different in 2077, while still maintaining that blocky, dangerous designs we got used to from that time, and Paweł says this. The first stage was just looking for the actual art style, and it was this kind of problematic question: are we making a futuristic game, or making some kind of retro-futuristic game, or are we completely leaving the game in the 80s? We ended up with some kind of a blend. We definitely decided that we don't want to make a futuristic game that is an expansion of our reality. It's this kind of a dystopian future where things kind of went wrong, where humanity never stopped emitting carbon and destroying nature from the face of the planet, and just didn't stop expanding, which led to corporate wars and disasters, tossing meteorites at the planet. There's this kind of story in Cyberpunk in the original rulebook. He later explains that the style itself is supposed to look blocky, imposing, and dangerous. That's why the city itself is so dangerous that just going back home you can be robbed, and your house as well during the weekend. That's why almost everyone has a weapon and augmentation, which became so normal that getting an augmentation is almost like getting a tattoo. One thing which is very important is the weapons culture in the game. They explain it as the US gun culture, just on a whole different level. You even have ads that show whole families using weapons because, like you would put on a watch in 2077, guns became a normal part of your arsenal when you are going outside. For example, a weapon like Budget Arms Slotomatic, which will be in the game, is a cheap one you can get from a vending machine. It cannot be reloaded, so once you empty the mag, you just toss it away and get a new one. Again, a very normal thing to do in 2077. I really dig the colors here. He did say it comes in various colors though, so it's gonna be interesting to see how much damage it does. Probably not that much, and it's gonna be something we just pick up early in the game. Besides that, he touched on the topic of smart weapons and how powerful they will be in the game. He also mentions that these weapons are expensive and only top tier people, or let's say Arasaka soldiers, might have them, so it will be interesting how does one escape a bullet from a smart gun, probably hiding out before they lock in. And as I said in my previous video, you will need certain augmentations and cybernetics to use this weapon in the first place. Besides that, there are also Borg weapons. They are made for people who are cybernetically enhanced, so gorilla arms, metal arms, and all of that if you want to use it. For example, if you pick up this weapon without enough strength and you fire it, it will knock you down to the ground, which is a really cool detail to have in the game, so be careful which weapons you pick up mid-fight because it can backfire. Next up is the fashion of the dark future. Here Marta Jakowiak talks more about it, and when she was asked about the importance of fashion in the game, she said this. In my opinion, I think it's very important. I think it's one of the main pillars. You have architecture, you have technology, and then you have fashion, because Also, it's like what people wear, what you see on the streets. It's not only about what people want to wear, but it also tells the story about the world. That's why all of those styles they showed in the past, like kitsch, anthropism, neo-militarism and neo-kitsch, are very important since people on the streets are defined by the stuff they wear. It's not random, it's connected to their roles in the game. And also we're going to see different people during the day and during the night in the game, which again will influence their clothing and the overall vibe. They are also using Marvelous Designer, which is a software based on physics where you create a piece of clothing from the concept and then you draw a pattern in the software where it's later going to stitch it and simulate everything. Again, a very technical detail, but it just shows how much attention they're paying to everything because, as they said, fashion is extremely important in this game on top of everything else. One of the most difficult things with the future are the materials you use. Obviously, in The Witcher they only work with materials that make sense in that era and universe. Here you have a lot more materials, which is of course great since it moves the design forward, but also creates problems because you have so many things to choose from. Like Pavel said, we didn't want to use traditional seams, buttons and zippers. We wanted these garments to be slightly differently manufactured, like clothes have been 3D printed or built in some other way. But it was problematic. It took us a long time to research that because whenever we were trying to remove all the seams and buttons and details from the garment, it started to look like a badly made 3D model because it's lacking detail. You expect to have a button there, not a magnetic stripe that's invisible. So it's way more difficult to make an interesting character in Cyberpunk than in The Witcher 3. And look, I'm sure people will be posting their style choices when the game comes out because yes, the way you dress is the extension of your character, so I can't wait to see all of the designs people are going to post and the things we are going to see in the game. Next up are vehicles. Pavel explains they were really influenced by the cars in the 90s and the 80s like Marcello Gandini designed them, like for example Lamborghini Countach, the Tommaso Panther and Alfa Romeo Carabo. Overall, there are 29 base models of vehicles in the game that are later modified and changed in look, style and how they drive, handle, brake, etc. For example, Nomad vehicles are much more sturdier than the ones in Night City due to environment, like putting an anti-mine detector systems, which tells me that there will be mines placed around certain areas in the game that we will have to avoid and not get into by accident. They focused on creating vehicles for each social class, like the bottom one, the mid one and the high class ones, because yes, the class divide in this universe is very extreme and visible on the streets. Some vehicles, like we've seen in the gameplay, don't have windows depending on their price and quality. For example, the vehicle we saw in the gameplay, the Rayfield, you won't find various models of that, but only different colors because they are extremely expensive. Other vehicles though come in factory versions, sport versions, and even the ones they just call junk set versions that are old, aged vehicles with solar panels on the top, for example. And other things beside normal windows in vehicles, you have fully armored vehicles that have crystal dome technology. That's basically what you have in this car when the windows appear, which is basically an LCD screen with armor on the outside. So a lot of exciting things here. I'm glad we got a little bit more details on this one, and since the game is staying for November, you can expect a lot of these interviews and news in the near future. So that's all for today. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to tell me down below what you think about all of this, and also smash that like and subscribe button for more Cyberpunk videos and join our growing community on Twitter and Discord. I also recommend checking out nightcity.io since one of our community members created a really nice fan-made map from the info we have until, today, to give you a better perspective of how the districts and locations are going to look like. And I did make a Patreon page if you wanted an extra way to support the channel. The link is down below. And huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.